Welcome. Welcome to the Best You discussion. That was Oklahoma Boogie by Leon Russell. We appreciate you being here this evening. You know, Rob and I are really truly honored that you're here with us, and it is our privilege to be able to do this. We want to thank you for all the recent kind words, and we really appreciate the donations. For the new viewers, our format's very simple. I talk, Robin does all the hard work. Everybody say hello to Robin.
Hey y'all, hey!
Our email address is bestyouguru@yahoo.com. Feel free to reach out with us, to us, ask us any questions, any comments. That's bestyouGuru@yahoo.com. Our website is bestyouGuru.com. We do have a YouTube channel. It's called the Best You Discussion of previous Best You discussions. So check out our YouTube channel sometime. Also, you can send donations to Venmo at Robin-Shidry or PayPal at bestyouGuru@yahoo.com. Because of the nature of our topic tonight, we're going to change the format around and do questions first. Now, Robin doesn't know what we talk about. She just does the hard part. I make up the stuff to talk about. So we're going to reverse the program tonight a little bit, if that's okay, Robin.
You're the boss.
During the week, we've had several questions, and the majority of them have to do with the economics during the COVID-19 that we're facing. And most of the questions have to do with investing, because people are worried. And the most important thing I want you to know is you're not alone. These are scary times, financially and health-wise. The pandemic has exposed a weakness in our economy, and it's exposed some alarming truths. One example of this is that we use a measure of jobs as a measure of the health of our economy. And that's not really a strong indicator of a strong economy. It's really a minor indicator. Think about it this way. Which is more relevant to a prospering economy, jobs or opportunities? You know, plantation owners in the South during the 1800s offered plenty of jobs. But how many opportunities did they offer to a worker so the worker could fulfill their lifelong dreams? So be careful when we say we talk about full employment or a low unemployment rate. How many opportunities are out there is a better measure of a strong economy. The winner of a football game is not measured by how many field goals they kick. It is the score that counts. So we look at jobs as a measure, but it's a field goal. That is all. Jobs are one source of a good economy. It counts less than a field goal, though, in a football game. I want you to consider your life and your friends' lives about how strong the economy truly is. They may have a job, but how great is their opportunities? Put jobs in perspective. How many opportunities? That's the measure of a strong economy. The next item is value investing versus growth investing. I know it's a boring topic, but I've had several questions asking, what do I invest in? Well, the best thing to invest in is you. But in today's market, the majority of the stocks that are making money are growth stocks. A value stock is a stock you invest in where the majority of your money is made off of dividends or the growth of the stock is steady over years. The majority of money made by Warren Buffett is based on value investing. Well, today, a lot of people are making money off of growth stock. That's how fast you think the stock will grow. Let's say if you invest $1 in a stock and it grows to $5, that's tremendous growth. So you're measuring the performance on its growth, not how much money it makes. An example is Tesla. Tesla is a great growth stock, but it has a negative cash flow. So it's not necessarily a great value stock. The reason I mention this is you need to understand if you're going to invest in the stock market, are you looking for dividends, a steady, sure way of making some money, or almost as sure as the stock market could be, or are you betting on a tremendous growth stock? Understand the difference. I had a question on yield curve, and I want to explain as simply as I can why people are concerned about the yield curve. When the yield curve inverts, it usually is an indicator of a recession or an oncoming depression. A yield curve is simply this. Can you make more interest by investing short term on bonds or T-bills or long term? Now, most of us think that if we go get a CD or some money market and we're willing to invest for 10 years, we should gain more interest. The interest rate should be higher than if 1 year. Well, if that inverts itself and you can make more money short term than you can long term, that's not good for a stable economy. So when you hear all this news about a yield curve, that's all it means. Is long term doesn't look as good as short term. If you have any questions on that, please, again, feel free to email us. And the last thing I want to talk about is we've had several questions about budgeting money. And I want to explain a financial statement as quickly as I can. Everyone should have a financial statement. You don't know how much money you have or how much you are worth unless you can look at a financial statement. Please do not judge somebody's success by the type of car they drive or how big your house is. It is the financial statement that makes a difference. And you have two main areas on a financial statement. You have the income statement and the balance sheet. So a financial statement has two main portions, income and balance. The income statement is further broken down into your income and your expenses. It's that simple. An income statement is your income and your expenses. Now, automatically, if you look at your expenses and it exceeds your income, you need to do something. That may or may not be bad on the long term. And how you know long term is the second portion, the balance sheet. The balance sheet is made up of assets and liabilities. If your liabilities exceed your assets and your expenses exceed your income, I don't care what kind of car you drive, you're not in a good position. I don't care how big your house is, you got to be careful. So please, if you have any questions about a financial statement, email me. But don't judge your neighbors or your friends or your family because they drive a better car or live in a better house. Judge yourself by your financial statement. If your income exceeds your expenses, you're doing well. If your assets exceed your liabilities, you're doing well. Keep that in mind and don't feel bad just because your best friend drives a faster car. And I want to point out something. Is your house an asset or a liability? The greatest misconception in our society is your house is always an asset. It can be both, and it should be both. It's an asset if it increases in value and it's more than you owe on it. It's a liability if you're underwater. So what you owe on it is a liability. The equity is the asset. So don't automatically assume your house is a solid asset. It can be both, and it depends. Our topic for tonight is going to be a difficult one. And it's a difficult discussion because it's what drives me. It's about the things that touch our heart, our soul, and impacts us forever. It is that we don't talk much of. We don't talk about the impactful events of our life. We don't talk about the good times. Well, I want to talk about something that is not really discussed much, or as much as I'd like to. It is the most impactful event in my life. I hope it touches you, and I hope it leads to other discussions in your life. You know, I grew up without a father, an active father in my life. Like many children, my father decided to leave my mom when I was too young to remember him. I believe I saw my dad probably 10 times or less in my entire lifetime. Now, he has passed, and Robin and I drove to Maryland to attend his funeral. I heard he was a good man, but I don't know. So I was raised by a single parent in a time when child support was rarely enforced. And why I mention this is to provide a foundation as to my motivations in life. Being raised by a single parent was frowned upon, and most children felt it. You felt it when teachers, preachers, fellow students, and people in general would ask questions as, why did your father leave? What did your father do? What did your mom do to cause your father to leave? And so many other questions that were asked of children who were raised by single parents. Now, things may have changed. We're talking about my motivation. I felt it on my birthdays when there was no cards, no call, no gifts, no concern for my father. I decided as a young child I wanted to be the best father I could be. Did I succeed is not up for me to decide. I believe being a father is a special privilege and a tremendous responsibility. Right or wrong, I think fathers too often get a pass on the roles they play in the raising of a child. To me, it is more than just providing food or shelter or a couple of bucks now and then. Your responsibility as a father is to ensure the children you bring into this world grow up to be successful people. Period. My goal in life was to be a good father. And on August 18th, 1976, my hopes and dreams came true. On that glorious day, Jack Jason Shiver was born. Everything I had hoped for, everything I wanted up until 1976 came true that day. When he was a baby, I talked to him, and I couldn't wait. When he could talk back so we could discuss important issues like who's the best baseball team. I wanted so much to talk to my son. Jack was by my side from the very beginning at karate tournaments. We brought him as soon as we could get him in a basket and take him to a tournament, he was there. He went on jobs as we operated our own electrical contracting company. He would sit and watch me as I roughed in houses. As I went to jobs and wire jobs, he would come with me. One day we were riding in our van, in our company van, and he looked over at me and said, "Dad, we own Sunrise Electric, don't we?" I guess he was probably around 6 or 7. And I said, "Yes, Jack, we own Sunrise Electric. It's our company." And he said, "Gosh, Dad, I guess that means we're important." That day brought me great gratification. My son felt important. I helped my son feel important. If there's one thing a parent can do for a child, is to make them feel important. That's what a child wants. Allow them to feel important. And I thought I had done that. I did do that. One day after picking him up from school, I think he was like in 5th grade, we pulled into our driveway after leaving school, and I looked over at Jack, and his eyes were full of tears. I asked him what was wrong. He looked up. He said, "Dad, there are starving children in Ethiopia." Now this was from a 5th grade child that had the empathy and understanding to know children his age were starving in Ethiopia. I was proud of him. I was proud of him for understanding the plight of others that weren't as fortunate. Jack and I competed in karate tournaments all over the country. One tournament in Memphis, Tennessee, I think he was a junior in high school. It's a big tournament. It was a Mid-South Championships. Jack competed first in the division, and he competed well. After the division was over, he came over and sat down beside me and presented a 6-foot trophy. Now, he was only about 5'6". He set that trophy right down next to me, and he looked at me and said, "Okay, Dad, it's your turn to go get one." We walked out of that tournament carrying 2 6-foot trophies. Jack inspired me to win that day. That's what your children should do, inspire you. Jack went off to college at the University of Oklahoma. He taught kickboxing and Taibo at the university. I am so proud of Jack, and I'm lucky to have him as my son. I felt like I was a good father. I thought I had succeeded. Everything I wanted, everything I'd hoped for had come true. A son who became my best friend. Why this topic's important is because on May 22nd, the year 2000, Jack passed from this world. And my life changed forever. And I want this, the point of all this, is Jack died from suicide. He did not commit suicide. He died from suicide. And please understand the difference. Jack suffered clinical depression. Not situational depression that we all suffer. Many of us experience depressed periods in our time. But I'm talking about clinical depression. Clinical depression is a brain disease that is progressive. It doesn't usually get better. Left on its own, it's very dangerous. Excuse me just a second. In the year 2000, little was known of treatment, much less successful treatment. Even today, we understand very little of the medication side effects. And one of the most common side effects is suicide. So the very medication you're taught to take could lead to suicide. Jack did try to take the medication. He tried very hard, but the medication made him a zombie. He could not function on the medication. He did seek the help, professional help, of doctors. Jack had no financial problems. He had no drinking problems, no drug problems, and he was also always upbeat and positive. His peers and friends would tell you, one of the best things about Jack, he was always there to lift others up. I just want you to imagine what it's like to be someone living with clinical depression. Imagine waking up every day and it's the worst day of your life. The brain of someone suffering clinical depression is different. It just doesn't function like the rest of us. The disease is debilitating, and I imagine I would like for each of you hearing this, if you can, look at the images of the brain of someone suffering clinical depression. I have, and it's scary. We don't judge people who die from cancer. We don't tell people with diabetes to get over it, pull themselves up by the bootstraps, look at the bright side. People suffering clinical depression need our help. They need us to understand that regardless of how hard they try, regardless of the positive spin they put on life, it's the worst day of their life every day. I ask you to provide the same consideration for people suffering depression as we do for people suffering cancer, diabetes, heart disease, lung disease. Clinical depression is a disease. Tomorrow marks 20 years since Jack's passing. Jack was one of the toughest black belts I've ever known, mentally and physically. One of the toughest people I've ever known. If it could happen to him, it could happen to any of us. You know, it's said that losing your parents, you lose your past. Losing your children, you lose your future. Jack did not intend to do anything to me. He was just trying to do something for himself. He just wanted the pain to stop. He simply wanted the pain to stop. He left us a 5-page note. He thanked us for being the best parents possible, the best parents he could imagine. He loved us. He loved us very much. He thanked us for the life that we allowed him to lead. But he wanted us to understand he simply didn't have the mental stamina or the physical strength to continue. Now I want you to understand that. That was a man who competed all over the country. He competed in the World Championships and placed 5th. He started breaking boards when he was 5. He graduated 13th out of over 500 students. He didn't have the mental stamina or physical strength to continue. I tell you all this because all I ever really wanted was to be a good father. My son, my sparring partner, my purpose was all gone. All I knew how to do from that moment forward was to take one more breath. The sky is not as blue. The grass is not as green, and the world is much different. The pain of the loss was increased by people telling me Jack would spend eternity in hell now. because he died of suicide. He committed suicide, so he was forever damned by God. The hurt was compounded because God's going to judge me as a bad parent. The hurt was compounded because people would tell me, you can always have another kid. It was compounded by people saying, well, how could Jack do this? Why didn't Jack try harder? Why did he pull himself up by the bootstraps? And all the other misspoken words. I tell you this because if you don't have anything to say nothing. If you want to help somebody, just be there. Be present. Be with them. Now, I've never really spoken in public about suicide because I get too emotional. But I want people to know that there are organizations out there that help people that suffer clinical depression and will help survivors of suicide. There is an organization, SOS, that help us in our grief. Suicide is serious, and it's too often ignored. In this self-centered, macho society of ours, suicide is overlooked. If you have questions and you need help understanding, or you need help in coping, reach out. Forget all of the macho crap about how strong you need to be. We all are weak and tender on the inside. We all need some understanding. Each of us need to be appreciated. Despite all the toughness on the outside, each of us wants to be loved and appreciated. The second reason, I tell you this story of Jack for two reasons. One was so you understand that suicide is serious and people die from suicide, not commit suicide. And the second reason is just take one more breath. When you don't know what to do when someone close to you dies by suicide, take one more breath. You know, Jack walked on this earth for 23 years. And I loved every minute. Every minute he was with me. I loved it. Because of that one breath mindset. Because trust me, after Jack passed, I had no goals. Nothing was that important. Water even didn't taste good. Nothing was the same. But I knew I had to take one more breath. So I ask you to do the same. Take one more breath. Because of that mindset, I now have a daughter. Now, she may not be my biological daughter. By society standards, she's my stepdaughter. But she's my daughter nonetheless. I have a wife that supports me through all of this, through all my ups and downs, through my tearful moments and my joys. You know, sometimes biology is overrated. Marley, my society stepdaughter, but my daughter, brings me such joy and purpose. You know, sometimes in our life, all we need is one more breath. When all the world is lost, I ask you to remember one more breath. When you can no longer muster the strength, I ask you, please take one more breath. And if you don't have what it takes, if it hurts too bad that it takes your breath, and you don't have that one more breath, reach out. I'll share my breath with you. that's all I have to say. Do we have any questions? Oh,
I didn't have any questions come in.
I had some, but I think I'm going to save them for next week. If we have nothing else, I'd just like to end it. All I want to say, if you need a breath, I'll share mine.
Thank you, Harry. Good night, y'all.